Lars, do you have a
Opening ceremony.
opening ceremony? There you go.
I will make some comments.
Okay, very good. Nicole, do we have anyone who signed up for public comment?
We do have one member, Jim Visak.
Okay. Good afternoon. We call to order the regular meeting of the West Valley City Council. Are we recording the call? Okay. So we're calling our meeting to order. We note that we do have a quorum present. We have 5 members of the council currently tuned in. I believe the other 2 will join us shortly. And with that, we'll turn to Council Member Lars Nordfeldt, our opening ceremony.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a few comments. These have been very interesting times. We're in a difficult situation, and it's been a real challenge for all of us to experience this. And I want to recognize our employees who have stepped up to this challenge and gone out of their way to go above and beyond the call of duty, and many of them putting themselves and their own families at risk to serve our residents and the visitors to our city. And I just want them to know that their efforts have not gone unnoticed, that our city thanks them and we appreciate it. And there's too many to mention, and I'm afraid that I will leave some out. So I'm not going to share any examples, but so many have done amazing things. I see reports through Facebook or the news or through email reports about all the things that they're doing. And I think, wow, how did they come up with these great ideas and do things that are great for our city? I appreciate them, and it reminds me of a saying my dad was fond of. He said that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And our city employees are tough, and they have really gone above and beyond, and I appreciate it, and we all appreciate them. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Lars. Very timely remarks and very appropriate remarks at this time. Next, we have our minutes of April 28th. Motion and second on the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, we've got that. Any comments? Seeing none. And I know I do this by voice, but since some of you have your microphones muted, but that's okay. I look for your mouths moving. So all in favor of approving the minutes of April 28th, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Okay, the minutes are approved. Next, we have our public comment period. I believe that we do have a person signed up. So Nicole, if you'll just work through that and get them online.
You're good to go, Jim.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor. I want to clear up last week a little bit on my comments. I understand you guys meet one-on-one all the time. It was just inferred in the study meeting that it might be a group meeting together. And I know when a group of you guys meet together, there's different rules. So I just wanted to make sure that, you know, that the public was informed, or especially myself. Other thing, I sent you guys all an email today, once again, about city property with violations on it. These violations are the same ones that were back in October, and my email's pretty clear. That shows what they are. They're simple fixes, but if this was a business owner, code enforcement employee Ramos would be all over them for having the outside stores, accumulation of solid waste, weed control, etc. Once again, this is the community preservations building, a star building in our city. People have brought this up in their administrative law hearings before. For over a year now, 13 months, nothing is being done. The next thing is the mobile app. There's issues with the mobile app. I've started using that and encouraging other people to use it. And when you send stuff in, it'll say received, and then or pending, and then it will go to the other one. And then I had a whole bunch come back today, say they were canceled. And then I replied why, but then about an hour later, they all came back received again. So I don't know if we're still working through the bugs on that, but hopefully we can get that, you know, get that fixed. I'm glad to see you guys are all healthy in there, and that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Nicole, is there anyone else online?
No, sir.
All right, then that'll finish up the public comment period. Mr. Pyle, any comments?
None tonight, sir. I'm good. Thanks.
Any council members? Seeing none, then we'll just move right along. Let's see, next we have on our agenda to a public hearing. This is on application PUD-1-2019 filed by Russell Plat, requesting final plat approval for the Cobalt Landing Phase 2 subdivision at 3579 South Redwood Road. And this is one that has been before us before, and they have modified that a little bit. And the development is, the first phase has gone in, and my computer is up. There, finally came up. The first phase was developed and is moving forward. They're now wanting approval for the second phase, and this represents that there are some pieces on this planned unit development. There will be 2 front parcels for possible commercial development, and the rest into the townhomes in this project. So that's the introduction to it. Anyone have anything to add for before I open it for public comment? Okay, not hearing any? Then I'll open up the public comment period for anyone who would like to speak to this item that is before the council. Is there anyone, Nicole, that is online?
No, sir.
Seeing none, I'm just giving them a couple of seconds if they want to hurry and jump on. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion and come back to the council for action on ordinance 20-19 for this proposal.
I move for
Go ahead.
Move for
Steve.
approval of ordinance 20-19.
Second.
Properly before us. Any further comments or discussion? Seeing none, then to our city recorder for the roll call vote.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang,
Yes.
Councilman Bueller,
Aye.
Councilman Hune,
Aye.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Next on our agenda is Resolution 20-49, adopting a tentative budget for the fiscal year of July 1st of this year and ending June 30th next year, 2021, and setting August 11th as the date for a public hearing for the budget. This budget reflects a little differently than most of the budgets we've done over the past few years, in that we are projecting, although we do not have accurate information, but are anticipating a fairly significant revenue reduction in sales tax. And so Mr. Pyle has put together a proposal on this budget that takes that into consideration. And his proposal includes about 3.5 million potentially coming from the fund balance, which are the funds set aside for use in emergencies or downturns or whatever the council proposes, but keeping some funds on hand for situations like this where it is clear that there will be some sort of a recession. How significant that will be, we don't know. But this budget proposes that we authorize Wayne, if needed, to take as much as 3.5 million out of the rainy day fund. And there are a number of other steps that Mr. Pyle has taken in this budget. I believe there's currently a hiring freeze. There's very little in the way of new funding is proposed in this budget. Essentially, the budget will be what we're currently doing, although there are some increases that we have to cover that are mandated that we can't do anything about without major changes. For example, retirement, medical dental costs for employees, contract increases that are set, those types of things. So it's an interesting time. It's a difficult time to budget accurately, but in keeping with the parameters that Mr. Pyle has set with the anticipated, sales tax reduction as best as they can project. That could change as we get further into this. I know we'll start getting numbers. I think the first full month is that we get of the drop in sales tax revenue will be June 1st. Anyway, but even that may not tell the whole story. And we don't know how long this downturn will last. So I think I've hit a few high points. The council is willing to chip in here on any particular items that you would like to highlight on the budget. Mr. Pyle, that includes you. As far as any items you want to add that you think the public should be aware of, I've hit a few that I looked at and was aware of. We're using a lot of internal cost savings as well in preparing this budget. Let's see if I can remember, Wayne, when we talked earlier. First, our budget will be balanced as best we can, given that it is a forecast, an estimate of what the future will hold. Second, there is no proposal in this budget to cut any of the services that we currently provide. The only possible minor impacts might be on a few items of maintenance that may be deferred, but the police department will still respond to calls. The fire department will still respond to calls. We will still be a fully functioning city, providing all the services to businesses and citizens as needed. We will be flexible as the future comes around. We may have to revisit this a few times. We don't know. So that is the budget that is presented to us. So now to our council members, any additional comments?
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment or two.
Yes, please.
First of all, I'm pleased that we're able to come up with a budget that forecasts no layoffs, no decrease in services. We'll continue with the police and fire, as you mentioned. Of course, we'll continue with the construction and meeting all of our obligations. And I'm pleased that we also have a healthy fund balance that we've reserved over the years since our last recession, so that we can maintain status quo as best we can for the foreseeable future. Now, we don't know what the future holds. Some might be more optimistic or pessimistic than others. And there may be a complete shift in society and the way governments function. But as for now, I think have set a course to continue business as close to usual as possible. And for my part, I'm very pleased that we have the management and finance staff to prepare and present a budget that allows us to do that in a balanced way with the funds that we have reserved.
Okay. Any further comments? Mr. Pyle?
Mayor, yes, if there aren't any other council member comments, I did just want to add to what you said. I've already kind of expressed a general philosophy and strategy in a few different ways over the last few weeks, so I'm not going to go over that again. But yeah, just to reiterate what you said, the budget is balanced. We are asking for significant flexibility in terms of using the fund balance. However, as I also had expressed before, our intent is actually that we think that with the structure of this budget, if the economy isn't worse than what we projected, we could very likely actually still be at the same level of fund balance as we are currently at the end of next year. Don't know that for sure. That's why I'm asking for the flexibility, but that is the intent and the structure of this budget. So those are, and you already well addressed the unusual aspects of the budget this year, sir. The thing that we normally do every year is the step that you are considering for tonight. We have the tentative budget up for adoption. And just real quickly, I thought I'd go over what the schedule is out here from weeks and months to come. So you're considering the general fund in this meeting. You're also considering the RDA, Housing Authority, and Building Authority budgets in a separate meeting. And those will be adopted in final form in June. But again, just to reiterate our normal process, the general fund budget, we're not proposing to be adopted until August 11th this year, which is after we will see the certified tax rate, including the judgment levy. So just procedurally, that's what's going on. This is the step that we're at. Usually at this point, when we're having our physical in-person meeting, Mr. Welch will make some comment or two, or sort of had this almost ceremonial drop of the budget to you. We kind of did that electronically last week. So I'm not sure if that's necessary or not, but I'll turn the time back over to you, Mayor, for either that or further questions from anybody else.
Oops, I'm sorry, I muted myself. So what's the pleasure of the council? Any comments? You need anything additional from Jim, our finance manager?
I would move to approve Resolution 2019.
Second.
Properly before us. Any further comments? I've struggled a little bit, and the council's aware of this from my comments last week in study meeting. There is nothing wrong with this budget. Of course, Wayne and his staff and Jim have done a great job of putting together a proposal that is balanced and that allows the city to continue to function. I think there's some things that maybe could be done, some minor things to improve it. As I stated before, I'm not a fan of being too quick to draw the money out of our fund balance or rainy day fund, as many like to call it. So that's probably the only concern I have. It's not a major one, but it is a concern because, you know, I tend to be very, very conservative on financial matters, more so than most. So that's just kind of where I'm at. But the budget does need to move forward, and I'm sure that will happen with the council tonight. With that then, seeing no further comments. There are none, then to our city recorder.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Hune,
Aye.
Councilman Bueller,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang,
Yes.
Councilman Fitty Samanu,
Aye.
and Mayor Bigelow.
No.
Motion passes by majority.
Now, so the council knows that's just my little personal quirk. And I don't want anyone to think that we don't have a good budget. We do. We've got a good budget. There are certain things that I just can't, I have to struggle with. But thank you, council, for moving forward on this issue.
But here, Mayor,
Yes.
you know, that's the money for the general funding for, you know, when there's a rainy day tonight, this time, I think we pull the money out from the general funding, and that's what it's for. I prefer to go that route and increase property tax, you know, in a city, because see, this people are struggling to pay their mortgage and their rent, and you know, buy food, put on a kitchen table for the family, and we increased property tax, are gonna cause more problem for them. So I think it's fine. I'm okay with using money from the general fund to cover for this time, and hopefully we can get over this and we can move forward.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's for me, a great softball that you've lobbed to me, and I sure appreciate it. And maybe many people are not aware, I chaired the House Budget Committee at the state during the Great Recession of 2008 and 9. And one of the things, Councilman Hune's comments were made multiple times on the state budget exactly the same. Use the rainy day fund. And even the media took up the chant and made several articles in the paper about start using the rainy day fund now. We did not use it in the September special session, the first round of dealing with the recession. We waited until December for the second session to deal with the budget. And at that point, everyone said, we're glad you didn't use the funds then, because it was more important to save it. It was hindsight, but they were very concerned before. So somewhat just due to my unique history and because of the experiences I had, I felt like I kind of had to follow the same pattern with the city. Now, remember that there are many paths to accomplishing taking care of the budget. And the legislature will have their ways of doing it that may be different from ours. You'll find different cities approaching this in different ways. And none of them are wrong. They are simply different ways. And depending upon your personal preferences, whichever one you might choose. Now, I've perhaps over-talked this just a little bit, but I don't want to leave the impression with the public that anything is amiss or the city isn't doing a good job, because they are. And there are just differences in philosophy about how to accomplish that. But again, I join with the council in saying Wayne and his staff have done a great job of preparing things and dealing with the issues that are before them. So thank you. Okay, now that I've got that out of my system, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Let's see, that is application PUD-2-2019 filed by Mark Garza, final plat approval for the Arin Hills subdivision at 3625 South, 5600 West. This is a project taking in a fairly large piece of ground. We've had it before us and had several discussions on it. There is access to this particular planned unit development from both 5600 West and from 3500 South. These will be 2 and 3 stories. The 2-story will be close to the homes that border it. There will be green space in there. There will, besides that access, it looks like the project is pretty standard. So let's see, I don't recall now, but the number of units, 130 units. So with that introduction then, to the council.
Mayor, I move for approval of PUD-2-2019.
Second.
Properly before us, any further comments? I don't hear any, so we'll turn to our city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang,
Yes.
Councilman Bueller,
Aye.
Councilman Hune,
Aye.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Mayor Bigelow.
Aye,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. Next, we have on our agenda, our consent agenda. There are 3 resolutions, 20-50, 20-51, and 20-52. The first one, right-of-way purchase agreement, warranty deed, temporary construction easement on Market Street. Robert and Evelyn Partner The second one, right-of-way purchase agreement and warranty deed temporary construction easement from Terry Lorraine Nelson Trust and another trust at 4020 South Market Street. So was the first one. So this is the second one on Market Street. And then the last one, right-of-way purchase, warranty deed, temporary construction easement for one on 2700 West, property at 2721 West, 3835 South. These are fairly routine, straightforward ones. So we won't, the ones next week will be a little more fun because they're a little more unique, but these are just more in the same pattern of the many we have done before. With that, to the council.
Mayor, I move for approval of the 3 items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Properly before us, seeing no further comments, to our city recorder.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Hune,
Aye.
Councilman Bueller,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang,
Yes.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu,
Aye.
and Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now that completes the scheduled agenda items for our committee meeting tonight. Excuse me. Next week, we will have our regular city council meeting plus the RDA, the building authority, and the other one, the third one on our agenda. And
Mayor, those are scheduled tonight.
Tonight,
oh,
Mayor.
those are tonight. That's right. Okay. Well, with that then,
Motion to adjourn.
all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
Like to call to order.
Oh.
Like to call to order the redevelopment agency meeting. Note that we've had an opening ceremony. All members are present, and move on to the approval of the minutes of April 7th, 2020.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, properly before us, all in favor of adopting approving the minutes of April 7th as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay. Report of the Chief Executive Officer. Mr. Pyle?
Thank you, sir. No report for the evening other than to note that tonight is the night that we would be adopting the tentative budget for the upcoming year. Thank you, sir.
Would you like to step forward and introduce that budget?
Sure. The way this differs from the general fund budget is the budget is divided up into project areas, of which there are 15, if I remember correctly. And it's generally a flow in, flow out sort of a situation with revenues from one mostly staying in the one, can cross across boundaries for particular reasons, but basically are used to pay off infrastructure improvements and other project area specific costs. This year's budget is a total of 17, is that a 5 or a 6? $17 million just over, and that's the introduction, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. To the agency.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of resolution 20-06.
Second.
Thank you. Properly before us. Any discussion? Ms. Kamak?
Mr. Fitzie Umanu,
Aye.
Ms. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Bueller,
Aye.
Mr. Hune,
Aye.
Mr. Bigelow,
Aye.
Mr. Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Chairman Christensen.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Having no more business for the redevelopment agency, I will take one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
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 I call to order the regular meeting of the West Valley City Housing Authority. Note that we've had an opening ceremony. All members are present. Our first item of business is review and approval of the minutes of February 25th, 2020 special meeting.
Move for approval of the minutes?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, it appears that the minutes have been approved unanimously. Mr. Pyle, next item was a report of the executive director. Do you have anything for us tonight?
Nothing, sir, other than the same mention of consideration of the tentative budget.
Which is the next item, resolution 20-02. Would you please introduce that item?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the basic look or how this is unique from the other budgets is this, the Housing Authority budget basically deals with federal income in the form of grants that we then use to subsidize housing accommodations for those that are needy and in that situation. The budget this year is $3.3 million proposed, sir.
Thank you. We have resolution 20-02 for your consideration or motion.
I move to approve resolution 20-02.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Kamek, would you take the vote?
Mr. Fitzsimonu,
Aye.
Ms. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Hune,
Aye.
Mr. Bigelow,
Aye.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Mr. Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Chairman Bueller.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
We have no other business regularly scheduled for tonight. Therefore, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed to adjourning? Hearing none, this body is adjourned.
I call to order the meeting of the Building Authority. Note that we've had an opening ceremony that all members of our board are present. The next item of business is the approval of our minutes from January 7th.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? It appears that the approval of the minutes is approved by unanimous vote. Mr. Pyle, if you have a report or if you'd like to introduce the next resolution, go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. So my only report does concern the tentative budget consideration and how this budget is formatted and is a little bit unique from the other ones is in that the building authority only specifically deals with particular building projects that we might have or refundings, refinancings of previous projects or debt. So therefore, you see a lot of volatility in this budget. For example, in fiscal year 2019, the budget was $13 million, whereas in fiscal year 2018, it was only just under $1 million. This year it will be $1.836 million and basically is again an inflow and an outflow of either a bond financing funds or payments out for making debt payments on buildings and projects such as the fire stations that we've recently rebuilt or refurbished, the parking structure, projects like that. And that's it, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. And do we have any comments or a motion from the board?
I move forward for approval, resolution 20-02. Two.
Thank you. We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion or questions? All right, we turn to our secretary then for the roll call vote.
Mr. PT Simonu,
Aye.
Ms. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Bueller,
Aye.
Mr. Hune,
Aye.
Mr. Bigelow,
Aye.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
and Chairman Norfelt.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. That concludes our business. So one final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you. That's our last meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.